How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Nuntes, Daf 59 of Masechta Sanhedrin, friends. Yo, friends, I think today's Daf is going to be interesting, so let's go for it. We're going to start on Daf Nuntes Amud Aleph, 2 lines into the Amid. Sagt die Gemara, Amid Beichon hat gesagt, Ovid Kechavim she'esek ba'tere Chayiv miso. That an Ovid Kechavim who studies the Holy Torah is Chayiv miso. Shenemar, as the Apostle says, Teretz Ivalonu Meishe Miroshe. That the Rebbeinu Shalom, that Moses commanded us the Torah as an inheritance. Lanu Miroshe v'Elohim. That it's an inheritance for us, but not for the Ovdei Kechavim. Well, no. So if it's such a problem for a ben Noach to study the Holy Torah, so then it should be one of the Shev Mitzvahs ben Noach. Don't study Torah. Mando Omar Meiroshe Migzol Kagazila. Well, technically speaking, it already is one of the Shev Mitzvahs ben Noach, because if you understand the pasuk between Torah Tzivalonu Moshe Morosha, that it's our inheritance, well then, if you're studying our inheritance, you're stealing. So, theft is already one of the Shev Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. Manda Omer Mi'o Rasa, there's a Manda Omer who says that it's like a fiance kind of thing, a betrothal. Well then, Dino Kinari Morasa, the Beskila, well then it's like Nari Morasa, which is Skila. So, technically it is already included, that edict is already included in the Shev Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. Meisver, we have a Kasha. Rav Meir Omer, Rav Meir would say, that even if the person studying Torah is in Oved Kechavim, nonetheless, Shuki Kohen Gadol, that he is like the high priest. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Asher Yaisa Osam HaAdam V'chai Boim, that any person will, I guess, study Torah and live by them. It doesn't say that this is specifically, that the Torah is specifically for Kehanim, Levim, Yisraelim. No, it says the people. That even an Ovid Kechavim who is studying the Holy Torah is like the high priest. So, and this, of course, this understanding, of course, implies that Ha'adam is all people, not just the Atem Kurim Adam. No, it's not that, but Adam in this context means everybody. So apparently, even an Ovid Kechavim who studies Torah is like the mamash, like the high priest. So Hasan b'Shev Mitzvahs to do, yeah, sure, they might be like the high priest, but it's specifically for them to study the Shev Mitzvahs which are shaykh to them, but the rest of the Torah is not shaykh. Zog the Gemara, Chanina ben Gamliel Omer Af Adam ben Achai. So Chanina ben Gamliel had said not just Aver ben Achai is one of the Shev Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, but Ochit Dam Min HaChai, right? That to, I guess, take a straw and stick it into the vein of an animal and start slurping, that would be a violation. If the animal's alive, that would be a violation of Dam Min HaChai. Tana one of the rabbis thought, Ach Boser B'nafsho Damo Lo Sochelu Ze'ever Min HaChai. That when it says Ach Boser B'nafsho, that the meat of an animal, while it's still benafsho, while it's still alive, lo sochelu, don't eat it. Ze'ever minachai, do not eat aver minachai. Reb Chanina ben Gamliel almost says, Reb Chanina av hadam minachai, that even refrain, right? You're not allowed to eat blood from an alive animal. My time I'll come. Reb Chanina ben Gamliel. What's pshat with Reb Chanina ben Gamliel? Kribe boser benafshoy lo sochel. It says don't eat the meat while the animal is alive, but it also says domo benafsho lo sochel. It says baser bedomi ach baser benafsho domo lo sochel. So it's baser benafsho lo sochel, and it's ochit domo benafsho lo sochel. That don't eat the blood while the animal is still alive. That's shaykh even to ben Noach. The rabbis who do not include dam min hachai, that is lemishre shrotzim hu deosa. That is to allow dam min hachai, is coming to allow aver min hachai from shrotzim. That aver min hachai does not apply to shrotzim. meaning because the rabbis don't learn of dam ben achai, all they have is aver ben achai, and it does not apply to shrotzim. And that's excluded because it's like, because it says, right, basar benafsho damo, that the blood needs to be separate from the meat, as opposed to shrotzim where the blood is considered intertwined with the meat. And there's an nafkamina for, where is it? For example, where am I? Where am I? Come on, there was an nafkamina. Where was the nafkamina? Yeah, okay. Yeah, where was this nafkamina? It has to do with, wait, why can't I find it now? It has to do with a sheretz be'etzim. If you warn by a sheretz that you can't, right, that for what is it? If you eat a sheretz and you warn it for like blood, it's a problem. But if you warn it for basar, then you get makis, because the blood and the basar are kilo intertwined when it comes to sheretz. Why can't I find where that was? I don't know. Anyways, fine. Oh, here is it. Okay, basar bodnash. I don't know. Okay, yeah. Be strong, don't eat the blood, because the blood is the soul, and it's saying, I guess, don't eat the aver, don't eat the dam and achai. The rabbi said, that when it says, right, that don't eat the blood because the blood is the nefesh, that is specifically the, like, if you're bloodletting an animal. Also, if you say dam and achai is not a violation, so you can technically drink that, but I guess if you're ben noach, but when it comes to like the last blood, the blood that the animal will actually die if that is let go, so then that would be a problem specifically. How come we have, aver min achai, right? Ach basu benafshe damalo sochelu. How come you have aver min achai by where was that? By I guess by Noach, by Ben Noach, but then it repeats it Nachamol, right? Right, because it says, right? We say in Sefer Devarim also don't eat the nefesh mabasar. So Rabbi Yosef bar Chanina called mitzvah shenemra livnei Noach v'nishnis b'Sinai, that any mitzvah that's a sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach and was repeated to the Yidden later on, post Mamar Sinai. So Laza v'Laza Nemra, so it's shaykh both to Bnei Noach as well as to Yidden. So if you have Aver min achai, which was said to the Bnei Noach, and it was repeated Nachamo for the Yidden, so it applies to the Bnei Noach as well as to the Yidden. Livnei Noach v'lenishnes b'Sinai. Now if you have a mitzvah that was said to the Bnei Noach, but was not repeated post Mamar Sinai, the Yisrael Nemra v'lo Livnei Noach. It's specifically then, right, it stops being for the Bnei Noach, and now at that from Ar Sinai and on, it is only for the Yidden. It's no longer for the Bnei Noach. V'anu ein lanu elegid anosha v'lib Rabbi Yehuda. The only mitzvah that fits this bill is Gid Hanosha according to Rabbi Yehuda. That according to the Rabbanon, the halachas of the mitzvah of Gid Hanosha was actually only from Mamar Sinai and onwards. The reason why it's written by Yaakov Avinu is just to write it in the context, but it wasn't actually shaykh until Mamar Sinai. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it was already shaykh from Yaakov Avinu, and it was not repeated at Har Sinai, which means that from Har Sinai and on, it's only shaykh to the Yidden. It's not shaykh to the Bnei Noach. Omar Mar, we said earlier, Kol mitzvah shenemar levnei Noach v'nishneis b'Sinai. Any mitzvah that was said, prior to Mamar Sinai, to the Bnei Noach, but then it was repeated also post Mamar Sinai. Laza v'laza nemra, so it's a mitzvah that shaykh both to the Bnei Noach as well as to the Yidden. Adarabo, I'll say punkt fakert midinishnes b'Sinai, from the fact that at post Mamar Sinai it was said to us li Yisrael nemra. It's saying that, hey, this is just for you, just for the Yidden, for the Bnei Noach. It's not for the Bnei Noach. And for the Gemara, the isne avodas kochavim b'sinai va'ashkachon the onosh of the kochavim milava shmamina loza v'loza nemra. But yeah, from the fact that avodas kochavim is mentioned post Har Sinai and the Bnei Noach we see are punished for violating for being Oved Avodah Zarah, right? Because the pasuk says that because they're Oved Avodah Zarah, that's why the Rabbanu Shalom is driving them away and allowing us to live in Eretz Yisrael. So we see that they are punished for Avodah Zarah post Ma'amad Har Sinai, post Matan Torah. So Memele, that means so clearly when it's repeated at Har Sinai, it means that it's shaykh to both Bnei Noach as well as the Yidden. We said that if you have a mitzvah that was said to the Bnei Noach and was not repeated post Ma'amad Har Sinai, L'Yisrael Nemra v'lo L'Bnei Noach, and it's only for the Yidden, it's no longer for the Bnei Noach. Adrabah, I'll say punkt fakert. Wait, Midiloi Nishnes B'Sinai, if it was not repeated at Ma'amad Har Sinai or post Ma'amad Har Sinai, L'Bnei Noach Nemra v'lo L'Yisrael. If it wasn't repeated, well then I'll say that okay, it's not shaykh to us, it's only shaykh to them. Nit leka midam. There's no such thing to the Yisrael Shari there's no such thing that you can have something that is permitted for a Yid, and yet it's forbidden for an Oved Kochavim. How could it be that because something that's also means because we're held to a higher standard? How could it be that they're held to a higher standard than us? Velo, what do you mean? There's no such thing. What about Eishes Yifas Torah? That's a halacha that's permitted to us. It's not permitted to them. That's because they are not, I guess, considered to be capable of kibush, occupation. Anyway, so Eishes Yifas Torah is not shaykh them for technical reasons. Right? We had said that, for example, a Yid is potter when it comes to stealing pachos mishvei puta, but we said that a Ben Noach would be chayiv. So that's because they are not shaykh to mechila, right? A Yid steals from another Yid less than a shavu puta, so sure he stole it, but the other Yid says, you know what, forget about it. It's fine. It's less than a shavu puta. But the Ben Noach from another Ben Noach, they are not going to be moichel, and therefore that is why they're not allowed to steal. So the reason why many less than a shavu puta by Yid, the reason why it's not a big, ultimately there's no punishment for it, is just because the Yidden are going to be moichel zan. But still, you're not allowed to do it. Just that the Yidden are moichel, but the Bnei Noach would not be moichel to one another. Therefore, it's also to them. It remains also to them. Kol mitzvah shnema l'bnei Noach. We had said that any mitzvah that was said to the Bnei Noach and was repeated at Har Sinai, so then it is shaykh to both the Bnei Noach as well as the Yidden. But what about bris milah? Shenemar l'bnei Noach, what was said to Avram Avinu prior to Matan Torah. Dichsiv va'ata is brisi sishmar v'nishne is b'Sinai, and it was repeated at Har Sinai uvayoyim hashmini yimo, that on day 8 you do bris milah. So it was duplicated. So the Yisrael Nemra v'lev l'bnei Noach, and yet it's only for the Yidden. It's not for the Bnei Noach. So here we have an example of something that was repeated. It was said to the Bnei Noach and repeated at Har Sinai, and it's not for both. It's only for the Yidden. How the Mishrei Shabbos who do also? Well, that is not, bris milah is not considered to have been repeated post Ma'amad Har Sinai. The bris milah post Ma'amad Har Sinai was written for a specific reason, and that was the Mishrei Shabbos who do also, to say that milah is doche Shabbos by yom v'afilu b'Shabbos, on the 8th day, even if the 8th day is Shabbos. Therefore, it's for a different reason. It's not considered. It doesn't fit, the category of something that was repeated. Very period for review. What about Puravu? Shenemar l'bnei Noach, that was said to Bnei Noach, T'chsiv va'atem Puravu. It says, be fruitful, multiply. V'nishneis b'Sinai, and it was repeated at Har Sinai, Lech emor loim shuvu lachem lo aleichem. Right, that after the 3 days, the Rabbanu Shalom says to Moshe Rabbeinu, go and say to the Yidden, okay, go back to your tents, be with your wives, do Puravu. Now the mitzvah of Puravu is shaykh to the Yidden. It's not shaykh to the Bnei Noach. So again, though, there was a reason why it was duplicated. It's not a pure duplication. There was a halacha that was shaykh. Also, the halacha that it was teaching there with Lechem Loim Shuvalachim Lo Aleichem, that was to teach that any davar shebeminyan tzarich minyan achil atiro, meaning the Rebbeinu Shalom had initially said that that for 3 days al tikshu ala isha, that for 3 days don't be with your wives. Now Mimele, if it's for 3 days, men and women can't have bia. So then Mimele, after 3 days, it's over and they can go back to each other. And yet it says Lechem Aloim Shuvalachim Lo Lechem, and yet specifically the Rebbeinu Shalom says go and tell them they can go back to their tents and be with their wives. But what do you mean? Why do you have to say anything? Mimele would have expired after 3 days. Why does anybody need to say anything? The answer is because anything that was established by Beis Din, even if there was a time limit placed on it, at the end of the time limit, the Beis Din needs to proclaim, okay, the time is up, you can now resume. So it was coming to teach that. It wasn't strictly teaching to duplicate Puravu and say it's for the Yidden as well as for the Bnei Noach. No, it was only to teach that Kol Davar Sheb'Minyan Tzarich Minyan Achil Atiro. So again, it's not strictly speaking a duplication. Therefore, it's only shaykh for the Yidden. If that's the case, Kol Chad V'Chad Nami Neim Mishum Milsa Isne. But one second, if that's the case, well then let's just find every single mitzvah that was duplicated and say, oh, there was some reason why there was some chiddush why it was duplicated. It's not really a duplication. So this is what we're saying. Azhar Mahader Umisna Ba Lama Li. That what it's saying is that the warning, Kilu, these Sheva mitzvahs that we already were warned from to the Bnei Noach, why do we have to warn it Nachamol? A warning Nachamol post Ma'amar Sinai. The answer for that is that wherever there's an azhara, a warning duplicated, so then it's a mitzvah that's shaykh both to Yidden as well as to the Bnei Noach. Now we had said ve'ein lanu ela gid anosha bilvad v'aliba d'Rabbi Yehuda. We said the only example of something that is not repeated is the gid anosha according to Rabbi Yehuda. That's the only example of something that a mitzvah that was mentioned to the Bnei Noach prior to Matan Torah that was not repeated. But one second, Hani Nami Lo Isne, but we just said Bris Milah, we just said Puravu, right? We had tried claiming that they're repeated, but ultimately we said, no, they're not actually repeated because they have some chiddush there that it came to do, so it wasn't actually a repetition. So why are we saying that the only non-repeated mitzvah from prior to Matan Torah is Gid Anosha? What about Bris Milah? What about Puravu? So Hane Isne L'Shum Milsa Ba'alma Halo Isne Klal. Well, there's a little bit of a difference, which is that Puravu, Bris Milah were duplicated for some reason, but they were duplicated. Sure, it was for a specific reason, but they were duplicated. Gid Anosha was never duplicated. It was one and done. It was mentioned in Parshas Vayetze V'zeu. Iba Isema. Alternatively, Mila Me'ikara L'Avram Hu Dika Mizar Le Rachmana. Or you could say, look, at the end of the day, Bris Milah wasn't for all the Bnei Noach anyways, right? It was just specifically for Avram. Mizar Le Rachmana Va'ata is Brisi Sishmar. You do Bris Milah specifically for Avram. It wasn't for all the Bnei Noach. Ata V'zarcha Acharecha Daroisam. You and your seed after you for all the generations. Ata V'zarcha in Ish Achrina Lo. Specifically, you and your offspring, not for anybody else. Elameyato Bnei Yishmael L'chayvu. Well, then the Bnei Yishmael should have a mitzvah of Bris Milah because they are Zarcha, right? The children of Abraham. Ki beYitzchak Yikar L'cha Zara. But it says that Yitzchak is going to be considered your Zera, and therefore Bris Milah applies only to Yitzchak and his children, not to Yishmael. Bnei Esav L'chayvu. Okay, but what about Esav's descendants? Beyitzchak v'loy kol Yitzchak. He says Beyitzchak, right? Some, right? Beyitzchak. Some of Yitzchak's children, right? Esav, Yaakov, but not Esav. Maskifla Rav Yishai Sakasha Lemiato Bnei Keturah Lo L'chayvu. What does that mean then? Right? If it's only we're saying that it's only for Bnei Yaakov, so then maybe I'm saying if it was only Ki B'Yitzchak Yikar L'chazar, so Avram was married to Keturah. So does that mean that that there was no Bris Milah for the Bnei Keturah? So Amar Rabbi Yossi Bar Oven V'Teim Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina as Brisi Eifar L'Rabbi says L'Rabbi's Bnei Keturah. That actually when it says as Brisi Eifar, it's coming to include even the Bnei Keturah that there was Bris Milah for the Bnei Keturah, but not their children. Right? For Yitzchak, it was also his children, but the Bnei Keturah was just them, but not their offspring. Omer Rav Yehuda, Omar Rav Adam Arishin lehutu loy basar la'achilu. Adam was unable to eat basar, to eat meat. The Pasuk says lochem yeh le'ochla, that it says all of the trees and what does it say? It says Vayomer Elokim Hine nosati lechem es kol esev zorei azara asher al pnei kol haaretz ve'es kol ha'etz asher bo pri eitz zorei azara lochem yeh le'ochla u'lechol chayas haaretz, that all these trees and fruits and things like that you can enjoy, and it says u'lechol chayas haaretz, and also the animals can enjoy these fruits. V'lo chayas haaretz lochem. So it's not saying that you can enjoy the animals. No, you can enjoy the fruits, and the animals can enjoy the fruits, but not that you can enjoy the animals. No. But after the flood, at that point, the Rebbeinu Shalom allowed meat to be consumed by the people. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Kierek Esev nosati lachem eskol, that I've given you everything just like the produce of the ground. Right? Okay, where am I? Kierek Esev nosati lachem eskol. Okay, so at that point, meat, animals were allowed to be eaten just like grass and other things. Is it possible that you can eat Ever min achai? But it says to the Bnei Noach that you can't eat Ever min achai. Is it possible that, this is where I was looking for. Okay. Is it possible that Ever min achai doesn't apply to Shrot? Is it possible that Ever min achai applies to Shrotzim? Tamlomer ach. It says only, and only, right? Ach is an exclusion to say that Ever min achai is excluded, or to say that Shrotzim are excluded from Ever min achai. Ever min achai does not apply to Shrotzim. Umay Tamuda, how do you know that the exclusion is to say that Ever min achai does not apply to Shrotzim? So Rav Huna Domo. Well, because it says ach basu benafsho domo, misha domo chaluk mi besaru. So we're specifically talking about an animal where the blood is considered separate from the meat. Yatsu shrotzim, to the exclusion of shrotzim she'ein domam chaluk mi besarim, that their blood is considered part of their flesh. Right, and here Rashi says that the nafka mina is the third wide line of Rashi says dam shrotzim, that if you consume the blood of a sheretz, hisruba mishum sheretz loke. If you say, hey, you're eating a sheretz, well then you will get makas. Mishum dam ein loke. But if you say, hey, you're eating blood, you wouldn't get makas, because the blood is not considered separate in a sheretz. It's considered just part of the flesh. And therefore, Ever min achai does not apply to a sheretz. Meisvei, we have a contradiction. Uridu b'dkas hayom, that the Rebbeinu Shalom says to Adam, that overpower, I guess, rule over the fish of the sea. So my lav la'achila, doesn't that mean that you can eat the fish? So it's not just he wasn't a vegetarian; you can even eat the fish. Lo l'melacha means you could do work with the fish. V'dagam b'nei melacha ninu. How do you do work with a fish? In yes, kedei rochbe debay rochbe as hinig be'iza v'shivut amai. Right? You're not allowed to do climb. Right? Shor v'chomer. You can't plow with an axe and a donkey. So he asked, what about? What if you have like a goat and you tie the goat to like a cart, and then you have a fish and the fish is swimming, and you tie the fish to the cart, and you have a goat and a fish, and the fish is swimming, the goat is walking, so we see that there is a possibility of a fish actually pulling a cart. Okay. Tashma coming here, uva'of ashamayim, and the boys. So my lav la'achila, doesn't that mean that he was eating the boys? Lo l'melacha, no, to do work. What can you do? Birds? Can you do work with a bird? In yes, the by Rav Huna, like Rabbi Rav Huna asked, Dosh ba'avazim tanagolin, that what if you thresh with geese or with chickens? Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda Mai, what's Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda, who says that he requires all four legs of the animals to be part of the work. This was talking about Yochal. Yeah, I think he's talking about that you can't muzzle the animals, I think. You have to meet. So it says of Yosef Bebuda that they have to be working with all four of their hands, legs, arms, thingies. So the question is, what about if you're working with a goose or with a chicken? So we see that geese and chicken are capable of working. Tashma coming here. And all of the beasts that roam around the land. So doesn't that imply that you were eating that he was able to eat the animals? No, that is to say that you can even put a the snake, to work. The Tanya is willing to brisa. Reb Shimon ben Manasseh, Chaval al shamish gadol shav min olam. Chaval, that with the snake's sin we lost the big servant in the world. She'ilmale niskal nachash, because if the snake was not cursed, kol echad v'echad Yisrael hayu mizdamnin lo shnei nachashim tovim. If the snake never got cursed, each and every one of us would have 2 good snakes. Wow, each one of us would have 2 good snakes to follow us around, to be of our service. And you say to one of the snakes, Snakey, go north. And you say to the other snake, Snakey, go south. And bring me back sandalbonim tovim, good sandalbonim, vavonim tovus, and good stones. Right? You would have this like servant, this snake, this serpent servant, and you say, hey, go get me precious gemstones, and they'll do it. Umargolios, and pearls and things, and gems. Not only that, elish mafshilim ritzua tachas novo, and they put some kind of strap under its tail, a motzi ba'ofer likinoso, and it'll get for you dirt, for your soil, for your garden. I mean, the snake was supposed to be a gevaldige zach, for your abandoned thing that you need soil for. But chaval, that the snake sinned, and that didn't end up working out. But initially, at least, the snake was for work. Meser of Akasha, Yehuda ben Tema, or Mrs. Yehuda ben Tema, Adam Arishan Meser began Eden Hoyo. That what happened with the Adam Arishan and the snake was that Adam Arishan was living it up in the Garden of Eden. And the Malachi Asharis were manning the grill and cooking meat, and working out wine for him. The snake saw, and he saw the honor of Adam, and the Nachash got jealous. So we see that he was jealous that Adam was living it up and he was eating meat. So we see that even prior to the flood, they were eating meat. Well, that was talking about meat that came from the heavens, not that he slaughtered an animal. Is that a thing, that meat can come from heaven? Yeah, it could. For example, Reb Shimon ben Chalafta was once traveling, and then lions came, and they were indicating that they were very hungry and that they found their next meal. I added a few words. So Reb Shimon ben Chalafta prays to Rebbeinu Shalom, and he says the pasuk from Baruch Nafshi in Tilim, Hakfim she'agim latarif, that the lions, that the cubs are crying out for tarif, for meat, for flesh, for game. So Nachisulei Tarte Atmisa, and sure enough, from the heavens came 2 pieces of meat, Chada Achlua, and the lions ate one of the pieces of meat, V'chada Shavkua, and they did not eat the second piece, they left the second piece. I say, so when Reb Shimon Chalafta was able to get away from the lions, he brought the second piece of meat, V'asol Levei Midrash, and he came to the Beis HaMedrash, Ba'yu Allah, and he asked about the second piece of meat. Dvar Tomei Huzeh, is it Tomei or Dvar Tor? What's the deal with this meat? It came from heaven, is it Tomei or Tor? Or Mulei, they said to me, Ein Davar Tomei Yored Min HaShamayim. Well, nothing Tomei is going to come from heaven, so Mamela it's Tahor. Ba'yu Minei Reb Zera, Reb Zera asked, Yarda lo Dmus Chomer Mau. What happens if meat that looks like it's donkey meat comes down from the heaven? Do you assume that it's donkey meat? Omar Lei, so Babo answers, Yarod Nala, I don't know, a silly tunin. I don't know, you silly boy. Ha Amr Lei, Ein Devar Tomei Yored Min HaShamayim. They already said that Tomei things don't come from the heavens, so Memela, I don't care what it looks like, Memela you can assume that it is Tahor. Friends, that was Daf Nun Tes of Masechtas Sanhedrin. Pretty interesting stuff. We talked about Bnei Noach learning Torah. We talked about Ever Menachai, Dam Menachai, mitzvahs, right? Shev mitzvahs Bnei Noach, depending if they're repeated at our sin and not repeated at our sin. If they're repeated at our sin, they're both for Yidden and for Bnei Noach. If they're not repeated at our sin, then it's only for the Yidden. Lots of interesting things on today's daf. Peace out.